wasn't perfect, but how important was it to see that effort from your team bouncing back after a rough weekend?
Incredibly important. I mean, one of the better teams we've had here. I don't know that they lost 2 games in a row or some sort of stat, based off series, but by the end of the year, kind of the last game is really the only stat that matters. But when you look back on a team, when they take a stand and show some resiliency, that's what's important. And really our guys have done that, in my opinion. Came out in a very difficult environment Friday and played well. And then Beam kind of spoke to who he is and what our team is by bouncing back and holding it together and throwing as long as he did, and could say some things about Sunday too. And then today, they had a good approach in pregame. You could tell some extra determination, but we're also loose and, beat a good team that's very physical. And obviously he's got some good arms and has done some things against strong opponents. Billy doesn't mess around playing people. So, all in all, I think good signs are there, but as the season progresses, you want to make sure you put those lessons learned and those good signs, to work on the field.
Are there some, I know in baseball it's inevitable during the season there's going to be a couple moments that you don't love, but do you learn more about your team sometimes in situations like that?
Yeah, I think you do. You'd like it to spread out over the entire spring or not pile up on you. It's fun, or it's nice, I should say, if you kind of get some harsh lessons and yet you win the game too. I think maybe we've even had that a time or two this year. But yeah, you have to understand what it's like for it to not go well and why it doesn't go well. To truly learn, I think to have a little extra determination, and then to know how to navigate through some of those situations when they come up again as it heats up, getting into May and June.
Do you think it helps that this team has some guys who went through the poor start last year at SEC play now to rebound from it this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's, a good amount of guys too that could say that both. They, in the 22 season, or even, and we shrink that number by just a few that know what the 21 season was like too. There was a lot of ups and downs in that, and highs and lows. So there's an entire body of work there now with at least our coaching staff being here to kind of preach from our standpoint, or for the players to talk about it in the locker room as far as how to approach things. So it's got some value.
I know it's still a couple days away, but what do you know about Ole Miss? What are you looking at?
Not too much. I got to work on that. Maybe take a 5-minute session before I come in here on Tuesdays. You guys typically ask, and I was getting made fun of by a great baseball guy today that just, my knowledge isn't that good if it's outside of our circle, but with those guys coming in, we'll dive in as much as possible. We do know some of those guys that they picked up in the transfer portal because we're tracking that just like every other team. They got some guys that we recruited out of high school and chose to go there as well. So a little bit familiar with the personnel. But if you're just talking about the program, all too familiar. I mean, they're going to be aggressive on offense. They're going to be very well coached pitching-wise. And, Coach B's got a national championship ring for a reason. And really, I don't want to say he built it from dust, but I think some people lose sight, no matter where you live in the country, of kind of what he has created down there with not just the program, but the entire environment surrounding the baseball program.
How good was it to see Ariel get his first at bat? I know he's played a couple times, but his first at bat almost went yard.
Yeah, no, he did. The foul home run, I think it was over the fence, and then the one that maybe on an offensive night would clear it. And during BP, I didn't tell him he was going to get his first at bat, and I don't know that he was, but that's as energized as I've ever seen him in the batter's box during pregame batting practice, and it kind of carried over into the game. And would rather have a guy be too excited than not excited enough, and he's always excited to be on the field. That's you could play devil's advocate and be real critical of him, but even from that standpoint, you'd never be able to say that he doesn't love to play baseball and he doesn't like being out on the field. And hopefully that's infectious, during his entire time here, not just this year.
Dylan Dryling's been a steady presence for you guys. Looking back at this time last year, he leaned on guys like Griffin Merritt and others. This point in time, are you seeing Dylan kind of be coachable to the others, some of these newcomers?
Yeah, I've seen that, and that's got value to it. I think really the whole group kind of, there's maybe kind of a couple guys that become the alpha in certain situations, but it's pretty fluid, whether it's Stom or Peebles or Billy, guys that have only been here for 1 year, and then some of the younger guys too, like Ariel, chime in. I mean, I've literally seen him coaching guys up on the infield. He's not the only one too. It's pretty fluid across the whole roster. All the catchers will help each other. So that part's nice. The part that stands out more about Dylan is just kind of the way he's starting to walk around and move around and act. He acts like a pro, and he acts like a veteran, you know, not just to college baseball, but just in baseball in general. And he's got really good presence, and it showed last Sunday. I mean, that at-bat he had to put us in a situation to tie the game was pretty incredible. His buddy Reese Chapman kind of did the same thing tonight when they brought in the lefty. Reese had maybe the at-bat of the night, even though it was a walk. So maybe Dylan's been coaching Reese up a little bit that way.
How big was it to get Kirby to come in and kind of be a steady presence in the middle of that game? And do you feel like that's something you maybe feel more comfortable with compared to years past, him coming in for 2+ innings?
Yeah, I think in years past, we've had, he was kind of growing up and he had older guys around him that were really good. Well, now he's kind of the guy, and there's going to be a moment where there's nowhere to run. It's either him or it's him or nothing. A do or die, whatever you want to call it. And I think he's probably more comfortable, and we're more comfortable now than ever with that. But we've always trusted him. I mean, he's had saves in SEC games and coming in really big situations. I do think now his presence and his pitchability maybe sets him up where he can go a little bit longer. But it's all just circumstances. And if you're ever going to drive home in your car and it not go well for some reason, I don't think you're ever going to second guess bringing that guy in. So he's very valuable, and I dread the day that he's not on the little list we have of pitchers that are available, but we actually had to deal with that at the beginning of the year with him being a little bit sore. So that was an appetizer, and I'm not looking forward to the full meal. He's great to have around, and we'll put him in situations we feel that are best. I mean, it's nice he's got a resilient arm too, so he'll be ready to go on Friday if needed.
Did you like your pitching plan starting out kind of that order last week? Is that something you look at again this weekend? And then Marcus Phillips, I know it just happened, but any update on him?
Yeah, I mean, according to Doc Rapay, he's here now, and Woody, I kind of stay hands off and let those guys report back to us, and we'll be conservative. He won't be rushed back into action, but as of right now, they think, you know, maybe just kind of something popped up tonight, maybe because it was cold out, just a little discomfort in his hand. So unless something changes, you know, knock on a lot of wood, nothing crazy there. And then I'm not quite sure what they'll do against us, but we'll have Causey and then Beam, and we'll worry about Sunday when it comes. But the options are kind of starting to become a little bit more vivid. But again, we got to worry about Friday. So tonight was nice to kind of have a Roger Clemens approach and put a stop to, you know, frustrating meetings in the outfield post game. But you could call Friday as an opportunity to do that too, because it'll be the first SEC game since we came up a little bit short last SEC game.
I'm sure the answer you'd say is like a dozen, but in terms of how many more guys you would like to have in the pitching staff right now that you feel comfortable with in some big games, how far are you away from a number you'd be comfortable with there?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of getting guys mixed in different situations. I think there's some guys too that could be valuable pinch hit guys off the bench, and we just haven't had some of those situations. And there's not a lot of guys in our lineup either that are matchup guys where you don't really want to see them face a righty or a lefty. So the 10-run rule thing, we've been short on some reps offensively and defensively. But, you know, pitching-wise, I think we're just getting to know these guys better. I don't think it's necessarily – I mean, if they're wearing orange, I trust them. They're teammates, and let's rock and roll and see what happens. But it just helps to know a little bit more of who the guy is and how he's going to act and how he handles different situations. We just haven't had that many reps pile up in actual spring games. But I think as each day goes by, we're learning more and more about this group.
Tony, do you have an update on Dawson Bargo?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this weekend it'd be reasonable to think he could swing the bat. I think to play a position defensively is a little bit off in the distance, maybe a couple weeks away. We'll see where he's at base running and how we want to handle that too. But I think it's reasonable to say that he could swing the bat sometime soon.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thank you all.